91. We're going to continue on where we left off last Sunday night. Lord willing, creek don't rise, we'll even get through the psalm. That'd be a miracle, huh? It's always good when you finish what you start, right? It's a good principle to live by. Finish what you start, unless it was something bad, and just stop. All right. Can you get the door? Amy, can you grab that door, please? Thank you. You're so awesome. I always got to tell people they're awesome. That's affirmation. You got to support the favors. Hey, Jared, can you go get me a water? No, I'm just joking. Please? No, I'm just joking. All right. Okay, everyone's awake. We're all alive. How many of you watched the Packer game? All right. How many of you didn't care about the Packer game? Man, good for you guys. That's good. I'm going to be honest. I didn't know if I even could watch it, but then I turned it on, and I slept through half of it. So that's the only game I've seen so far this year, so it was a good nap. Good stuff. All right. So Psalm 91, let's go ahead, and then we're going to cruise into it. So last week we talked about who is your shelter, and who is your shelter? I hope you can answer that question. When the storms of life come, who do you seek for shelter? You know, a lot of, the world would say, well, shelter, dude, you need like investments. You need security in when life goes sideways. I remember something I was told when I was going into college was you need a degree, a college degree. That is your shelter for when things go sideways, because then you can live your life and you'll have that job and you have that security of that degree. The world will tell you many things about where your shelter is, and I would dare tell you that all of those will not shelter you from the crazy, chaotic life that we live in. But we need to seek God as our shelter. So we're going to go ahead and start in Psalm 91. We'll read the 4 verses that we covered last week, and then we're going to pick up right on verse 5, and we'll get right into it. So here we go. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him will I trust. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. All right, so here we go. So that's what we covered last week. Here we go. This is tonight. And the title tonight is, Who is your protector? Who is your protector? I think we all need protection as we go through life. And who is your protector? Here we go, verse 5 and 6. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. So think of the perspective. I want to look at verse 5 and 6, and I want to look at a few things. So the first thing is this. The perspective that we have is that there's, what time of day is God there? When does danger, when do hazards appear? Is it just at night? What is it? Let's look at verse 5 and 6. Ready? Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrows that flieth by day. Okay, day and night. Okay, so we got a little contrast here. What does verse 6 say? Nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness. Darkness, okay. Nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. Peak sun, right? Noonday. So we see a contrast. We see night and day, we see darkness, we see peak sun, right? It's noon, it's hot, it's blazing, right? You know what we need? We need help all the time. We need protection all the time. Not just, at night. We need it all the time. We need God's protection, and it's not limited by the circumstances. It's something we can always count on. All right, not only do we see different times, night and day, noonday and darkness, we see different problems in these 2 verses. By night, He'll protect us from the terror. Have you ever been afraid at night? Ever been spooked out, really freaked out by something? Yeah? Ever been there? It doesn't happen as much during the day, even though sometimes my kids can really get freaked out. Brody's discovered that he can scare Blake pretty much at any moment he wants. And so what he'll do is Blake will go to his room, and sorry, Blake, I'm going to tell you a secret story. Blake will go to his room, and he'll come back from his room, and Brody will get next to the wall. He'll be like, so I've got this little thing under our TV that holds like all of our photo books and all that stuff, and it hangs off the floor about this tall and sticks out about, yay wide, something like that. And he'll lay underneath there, and Blake will just come walking out, and Brody will be like, ah! And he'll be like, ah! Don't do that, Brody, that's not funny, right? Oh man, so he can get scared at any time, but there is terror at night. There is terror at night. Think about the scary things that happen at night. I don't know, I think this is hopefully common knowledge, but the police don't go home at night and just like, everyone's good, everyone's tucked in, we're good to go. We can all have a good night's sleep. There's cops that stay out all night, because why? Because there's stuff going on all the time. And what? Men love darkness because their deeds are evil. So there's stuff going on, there's stuff at night, and it's not just the monster in your closet or the supposed monster. There are no monsters, Brody, just FYI. I don't want to be up all night. Dad! Oh man. Okay, so the truth that there is a lot of stuff. But think about this, at night, you ever suffer from anxiety at night? That you're starting to calm down, you're starting to relax. You're not busy with the hecticness of the day, and you're starting to just go into like chill mode, and then all of a sudden there's all this stuff that just starts going on there, and you just start, your brain is starting to think of all these things that are, bugging you, like, oh man, the worries of the day that are coming and creeping back in. Think about that. Fear can be greatest at night because you're not busy with all the distractions of the day. You have time to think about, oh man, what about that? What should I be doing with that? I have a thing, I don't know how many of you are wired like I am, but if I have a lot of stuff coming up the next day, I don't sleep well. Any of you like that? Okay, I would think that's mostly human. Mostly human. I'm mostly human, most of the way. I'm part Superman. No, I'm just joking. But think about this. Your adrenaline's pumping, right? Like this morning, I knew it was going to snow, and I knew I had to come in and help clear sidewalks. And I was like, I did not want to sleep through my alarm, and I was like, there's adrenaline pumping. It's like, oh man, I gotta get that. And it's, okay, I don't need to be up at 4 o'clock. It's not going to help anything. So what do I have to do? Well, okay, take a deep breath. God, help me to relax. I'll wake up to my alarm and everything to be okay, help the snow to finish off so that we can have church, people can still make it out, and give it to God, right? Terror by night. When I'm afraid, when I'm worried about stuff, when my brain's thinking about, obviously there's much heavier stuff than going in and shoveling. But when there's big stuff coming up in your day, whether it's dealing with something that you don't want to deal with, and it's heavy on your mind, we've got to give that to God. We've got to give it to God. What does he say? Matthew 11:30 says, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. Too often we what? Think about the yoke of an oxen, the yoke of the oxen hauling this load. Too often we what? We carry our own load. We want to carry it. I'm going to carry it. I can do it myself. It's so heavy. Man, I don't know if I can make it. I feel like I got to quit. Well, why are you carrying the yoke? Why didn't you give that to God? Why didn't you take that load and give it to God and say, God, you've got to handle this? And that doesn't mean that we just like, well, I never got a job because his yoke's easy, so I thought I'd just never get a job and never do anything worthwhile and never take responsibility for anything. It's not what it's saying. But it's when we face difficulty, give it to God. Give it to God. Think about, so that's at night. So here's a question. Do crazy things happen during the day? I can think back in the not so distant, past, where something went down in broad daylight that was crazy. Can you? I think it's fair to say that we need God's protection. We need God's wisdom all the time, day and night. All right, so let's look at this. So there's terror by night, and then let's look at verse 5. Look at what does it have there? It says, a terror by night, and then it says, the arrow that flieth by day. Would you say like an arrow is like a mass impact, mass casualty thing? Or is it kind of like a one and done? Come on, bow hunters. It's a one and done, right? So let's look at this contrast that we see here. The arrow that flieth by day And then verse 6, nor the pestilence that walketh in darkness. What is pestilence? Pestilence, we talked about that a little bit last week. It's a virus. It's a thing that comes and it's a mass casualty, there's mass, death. It's just this huge monstrous thing. So think about the things that we face. It might be little. It might be just a little tiny thing, one and done. It might be something that we face that's just this huge thing, an epidemic, okay? But what do we see before all this stuff? Verse 5, thou shalt not be afraid. Thou shalt not be afraid. What about the last one? Destruction. Destruction. When I was young, I would go on vacations with my parents, and we would go, in the middle of winter, which is awesome. It's a great time to go on vacation if you like warm weather. And we would go to like Florida. I think we did one trip when I was like 3, 4, 5 to like San Diego. I have no idea. I remember like one thing about it. But I remember going, man, I wish I lived in like a warm, climate. It'd be perfect there, right? There'd be no destruction because we've got the snow and there's tornadoes. It's Illinois, Wisconsin. It's really rough. It'd be so much, Florida's just perfect. And then as I got older, I was like, Florida's got hurricanes. I guess it's not perfect. And I was like, well, I could go to California. Oh, wait, California's got earthquakes. Doggone, I can't go to there either. You know what? There's destruction all around, is really what it is. We can't get away from it. We need the Lord. We need the Lord. There's destruction all around. Okay, why? Because our hope, we should trust in the Lord. We should not be afraid because our hope and our strength, our refuge, our fortress is our God. And we should trust in him. Okay, so let's look at this next section. This is actually very interesting. I've never read it with this context, reading it till I was studying for this, and this kind of just all clicked to me. So I hope this is enlightening for all of you. And some of you real spiritual people, you probably already knew it, and just pretend to be, amazed or something like that. Okay, Psalm 91, let's look at verses 7 through 12. Ready? 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eye shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked, because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. So here's some context, ready? So last week I said, doing some research, a lot of people said that maybe this was written by Moses. This psalm was written by Moses. So, and even if it wasn't, let's just look at it from that standpoint. Just because it really I don't know, I saw it with new depth. So think of Moses. Moses is what? He grew up in Pharaoh's house. He kills a guy trying to solve the problem his way, and flees, right? And he gets married, and God talks to him after 40 years after he's been shepherding, and he's told to go back to Egypt. And God has heard the cry, right, of the Israelites, with the Egyptian, they're in slavery. He's heard their cry, and he sends Moses back. And Moses comes back, and he says, you know what? God's told me, let my people go. So, Pharaoh, you need to let the people go. And what does Pharaoh say? So smartly and so simply, no. Right? That's what he says. So what does God do? He puts what on Egypt? Plagues, right? Plagues. So we have plagues come on Egypt. So think of plagues. What were some of the plagues? So we have first one, water into blood, right? That would not be, I don't think it would kill you, but it definitely would not make my day, right? My life would be pretty miserable. I think it's fair to say that I'd rather deal with COVID than everything that's water is turned into blood. That would be pretty nasty to live through. Think about this. Frogs. There's just frogs everywhere. Can you imagine if there were frogs all over the stage? It wouldn't kill us, but it would definitely be, make life miserable. I guess you could choke on a frog. That would probably kill you. Lice, okay, that would be a problem, right? I don't like lice. You know, some of us don't have to. I'm going to leave that one alone. Next one, boils, okay, that would make life miserable. So these are all, you know, think about the plagues. These all make your life miserable. Not necessarily kill you, but they make your life miserable. Locusts, okay, hail. But then there were two plagues that were really pestilence, okay? Let's look at those two. And I just want to paint this picture for those verses, starting in verse 7. So let's look at Exodus. There's the one plague, and it's on all of the Egyptians' animals. Exodus 9, verses 3 through 6. And it says, "Behold, the hand of the Lord is upon thy cattle which is in the field, upon the horses, and upon the asses, upon the camels, upon the oxen, and upon the sheep, and there shall be a very grievous murrain. And the Lord shall sever between the cattle of Israel and the cattle of Egypt, and there shall nothing die of all that is the children's of Israel. And the Lord appointed a set time, saying, Tomorrow the Lord shall do this thing in the land. And the Lord did the thing on the morrow, and all the cattle of Egypt died, but the cattle of the children of Israel died not one." Pestilence, right? It just came through and it wiped out all of Egypt's livestock, right? Gone. Didn't touch the Israelites' livestock. So then let's look at this. This is the other one. So what's the other one where there's just mass death, right? It would be the last plague, right? And we know the last plague is the death of the firstborn, right? The death of the firstborn. And then God says, okay, you know, here's what we're going to do. If you're an Israelite, we're telling everyone, you're going to find a lamb, you're going to kill the lamb, you're going to eat the lamb, and you're going to take the blood and you're going to put it up on your doorposts and over the top. You're going to have, and then you're going to stay in your house, and the blood will be a sign, right? And it will, the angel of death, you know, the death of the firstborn, will pass over. Will pass over, which we know is a beautiful picture of what? Which is the beautiful picture of Christ, right? The blood of Christ that God passes over us, right? We're sinners, but the blood of Christ, the judgment passes over us. So it's a beautiful picture of what was to come. But so we see that, the death of the firstborn. So let's keep digging in just a little bit, and then we're going to get back to our psalm. Exodus 12, here we go. Exodus 12, verses 12 and 13 is what we'll look at. "For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord." Verse 13. "And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you." That's a beautiful picture of Christ, guys. It's a beautiful picture of Christ. "And the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt." So here, imagine this. Can you imagine the death of the firstborn? The carnage, the disaster, the destruction. You know, the Bible talks about there will be a cry that will come out of Egypt, you know, that no one has ever heard before. Like just the devastation of that. I think that can hit home, right? That's like kind of a dark picture. But then I want to take that and I want to look at 7 and 8 in Psalm 91 with that context. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Isn't that interesting? What do you think? You know, so we see that the Israelites are putting blood on their doorposts. They're staying inside, right? And death is going through Egypt, and it's killing the firstborn, but it's not affecting the Israelites that have put the blood on their doorpost. We don't know if there was an Egyptian who lived across the street or across the alley, and they're experiencing death, but yet you're protected. You know, the Israelites were protected by the Passover. So think of the image. Think of that, how close and how devastating it would have been for all these people. And they were right there. They were right there across the street, or maybe just a little bit away, and they're hearing this cry. With that context, 1,000 shall fall by thy side, 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Think about that. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. So let's look at it a little bit bigger. You know what? The reward of the wicked, is that a good thing? Do we want the reward of the wicked in our life? I don't think so. I don't think we want the reward of the wicked. I think that's going to be bad, right? That's judgment from God, right? But think about this. As a Christian, we should be living for God. We should be doing what God has for us. We should be dwelling under the shadow of the Almighty, doing what is right? Because then, if we're doing what God has for us, we don't need to be afraid. It may come close. And I thought of an illustration. I was thinking about doing it, but I decided that it probably wasn't best. I was thinking about putting a piece of plexiglass right here and having someone chuck an egg at me from that angle, right? And even if someone was standing on this side of the glass, are they going to get pegged with the egg and it's going to get, egg all over them? Yeah. But is it going to hit me if I have this wall, or should I say shield? Think about that. When we live where exactly where God wants us to be, and I'm not saying it's going to be this cakewalk and it's going to be easy and there's never going to be anything that goes wrong and we're going to have this perfect life and it's all going to be great. But when we're living the life that God wants us to live and we have the blessing of God upon us, and He's our shield, He's our fortress, He's our refuge, there are going to be all these things that come. And the world's just, think about what happened in Egypt, all these people that were going through all this difficulty because they were totally rejecting, God. God says, let my people go. No. They were rejecting what God wanted, and they faced the consequences. Whereas when we put our trust in God, when we have our confidence in God, and He's our shield, He's our refuge, He's our fortress, think about that. We may be right there, but yet we can come out unscathed, okay? We're still humans. We're still going to experience flat tires, and people are going to, we're going to lose loved ones. We're going to have all this difficulty. I'm not trying to paint this like, if you serve God, nothing ever bad will ever happen to you. That's not true. But you know what? The protection of God, the hand of God on us, is an awesome thing. Be where you need to be. Be who God wants you to be. And He'll bless you. He'll protect you. Okay? He will be with you. Okay? You may not have the easiest life. I would dare say it will be hard. It will be hard doing what God has, because guess what? It's contrary to everything that the world is doing. But in spite of that, God is there, and God is there to protect us and to uphold us and to keep us moving. I don't know, I read those verses with just new depth that I don't know, I never, you read that and you fly through it and you just never see the whole picture. It's easy to, I remember back at last March, it's easy to shrug off something that's distant and far away. I remember when hearing about, I totally remember, I was driving down 94, I had the radio on, and I'm listening to some guy, and he's like, COVID, it's this thing in China, and I think it's a little premature to shut down the flights, and it's just not that big of a deal. It's probably an overreaction. And it's, when it's distant, when bad things are distant, it's not that big a deal. And then it gets a little closer, and you're like, it's fine, I don't know anybody with it, it hasn't affected anyone that I know, it's probably not that big a deal. And then people start running out of toilet paper. And then what is it? It starts to hit a little closer to home, specifically your bathroom, okay? Literally, it's like, oh man, this is starting to hit home. I go to the grocery store and all of a sudden there's not stuff. I usually buy that. Why isn't that on the shelf? And it starts to hit home, and all of a sudden you hear of people that oh yeah, my mom, I know someone whose mom died of COVID. I I was at the bank and the teller's, brother-in-law and sister passed away in California from it. Okay, well now it's starting to hit home. It's becoming more of a reality, and it's really hitting close to home. Think about it. In these verses, if people are dropping a 10,000 drop, and that's not just drop like they tripped, like they're dropping dead right by your right hand, that's close to home. That's close to home. When we go through difficulty, when we go through hard times, and it's close to home, man, it's hitting close to home, what do we do? What do we do? Do we start to panic? The human tendency is yes. Yes, I start to panic. I start to go, oh, I better get some toilet paper, better get some noodles and some sauce, and we better make this work. Here we go. I don't want to starve. But think about, escalate that. Oh man, COVID, I don't want to die. I don't want my kids to die. You could really start to play that thing of things coming close to us, and the closer they get, it really tests our faith in God. Will God provide? Will he take care of me? Will he protect me? Very interesting. I would rather go through difficulty with God than without him, just FYI. And I hope you guys can all say the same. Make sure you're where you're supposed to be. Make sure you're reliant on who you're supposed to be reliant on. It's easy to get self-confident. It's not the answer. It is not the answer. We need to have our confidence in God. All right, let's keep going. Look at verse 8. So the wicked shall have their reward. Aren't you glad hopefully we're godly, okay? We're living a godly life. What does it say? We're going to behold. Here, let me find that. I got to look in my notes here. It says, only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. Aren't you glad you aren't going to experience it? You're just going to see it. You're going to see them. Have you ever seen someone who just like they had it coming? You're driving down 94 and someone's just swerving back and forth, and all of a sudden you see the lights turn on, and you're like, you get your reward, big boy. Yes, they win again, right? Like there's something about that where it's like, oh, dude, you had that coming. You had that coming, right? Aren't you glad? Well, hopefully, if we're living godly, we're living the way God would want us, man, that's nice. That's nice. You know what? We may see someone else experience the reward for their wickedness, but we don't have to, okay? Let's live godly. Let's live godly. Keep going. So why won't we? Why won't we experience this stuff? Why will God protect us? Here we go, verse 9. Because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, okay? He's personal. He's my refuge. Even the Most High, what is that word? Thy habitation. What's that a word for? Your dwelling place, right? Kind of ties into the beginning of the psalm, right? Where are you dwelling? Well, I'm dwelling in the power of God. I want to live in the power of God. I want to live where he wants me to live. I want to do what he has me to do. That's what I'm going to do. All right? We can have peace in the midst of chaos. Think of the chaos, the devastation, the destruction of Egypt during the plagues, but yet we can have peace knowing that God is in control and that he's going to take care of us. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling, which kind of ties into that plague again. The plague won't come nigh thy dwelling. It'll stay away. For he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. Have you ever heard of the guardian angel? We all have a guardian angel as Christians. I think some of us give our guardian angels more of a workout than others. I'm just going to be honest. And I think Matt is probably guilty the most. But man, you know what? God is good. There have been times where, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, where you feel like you've been held up at something, and it's just like, man, I want to go. I remember as a kid, we were like buying this TV from Best Buy. That was the thing back in the day. And it was probably like this nasty tube, TV, like really old-fashioned. But I remember it took forever to get out of there. And it was like, dude, this took forever. Why did it take so? All we're doing is buying this one thing, and then we got to go. Let's go. Like, I was really impatient. And I was probably in like junior high, elementary. And I remember on the way home, there was this really bad accident. And I was like, even as an elementary kid, junior high kid, it was like, man, I wonder if God had us hold back at the store to protect us from something that was going to happen? I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying, does God do that? I think he does. I think he does. God makes no mistakes. Very interesting. All right, let's look at verse 12. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against the stone. God is looking out for us. God is looking out for us. God protects his people. God protects his people. He never gives us more than we can handle. Which sometimes I feel like, do you ever feel like you're given more than you can handle? You're overwhelmed? Yeah, I've been there. I've been there. But he never does. He never does. Think of some of the amazing stories of the Old Testament. So I think of like all these crazy things coming just really close to people. And I understand we're not in Old Testament times, but I think God still does it today. You know, maybe not to this extent, but think about the fiery furnace. You know, think about that. They're thrown in the fiery furnace. The flames are so hot that it burns the soldiers that are throwing them into the fiery furnace, but yet they come out and their clothes don't even smell like fire, which is, you know, I don't know if you guys were at the Luminary hike, but I'm sure you smelled fire and all your clothes stunk by the time you were done. So imagine being in the fire, but yet unscathed, okay? That's God. That's God. Daniel in the lion's den, that's another one, right? You're thrown in. You're supposed to be dead. There's no chance. But yet, what is he? He's doing what God has for him. And God says, you know what? Nope. Lions, you're not hungry tonight. You're just going to be a nice little pillow for this guy. Right? Can you imagine? Can you imagine? I think about the arrows, you know, in this passage about the arrows, you know, that are come by day. And I think about the story of Hezekiah, King Hezekiah, and he's you know, worried about Jerusalem, and Sennacherib is coming and trying to take Jerusalem, and he's already taken the gate, you know, the walled cities, you know, on the border cities, and he's right up to Jerusalem, and he's been, you know, yelling, and they've been going back and forth over the wall, and God promises that an arrow will not enter the city. And what confidence? Did an arrow ever come into the city? No. God was able to protect him and took Sennacherib out of there, gone. Think of the close calls in the Bible. Sometimes scary things come awfully close to us and they can shake us. Use those times to draw nearer to God. Remind yourself of God's promises. Don't push God away. Choose to dwell and to live in his power and in his strength. We need to put more trust. This is good. Actually, this is if you can take one comment from mine away tonight, take this. You ready? We need to put more trust in God than in our feelings. We need to put more trust in God than in our feelings. Right? Because our feelings can betray us. Okay, our feelings can be all over the place. We need to put more trust in God than in our feelings. Our feelings will tell us to fear and worry. We must keep moving forward for the cause of Christ, knowing that God is in control and that he is our protector. Who is your protector? I hope you can answer with God. God's my protector. God's the one who's going to provide for me. When things get scary, when things get, you know, devastation is at my door, God is going to take care of me. And that doesn't mean I'm invincible, but I know that God's going to protect me and he's going to take care of me. All right, let's go ahead and we'll go on to our time of prayer. If any of you have a sheet, you can grab that. There's a few sheets up here if we need a few more. Does anyone need a sheet? Everyone's got one? Okay, cool. If you have a prayer request that you'd like to add to the sheet, let's go ahead and do that now, and then we'll go ahead and have our time of prayer. Does anyone have a prayer request to add to the list tonight? Anyone? Robin, go ahead. Okay, all right. All right, so Robin's praying for a friend going through health difficulty. All right, anyone else? All right, Diane? Okay. And have you heard anything from him, or no idea? Nothing. Okay, so for Joe with COVID, just for hopefully a light, just move right through it and be done with it. All right, anyone else? All right, Nikki, my wife.
The lady that we advertised with, the Gutenberg family, she recently lost her husband in a snowmobile accident. We did send a prayer request, but in case we didn't get that, you just continue to pray for them and their family. They have 2 little girls.
All right, so for the Gutenberg family, they lost their dad and husband just last week, right? So just prayer for them going through their loss. All right, anyone else? Okay, all right, let's go ahead and break up in groups. If you want to pray together, great. If you want to pray by yourself, that's all right. Let's all stand together. We're going to close with God will make a way where there seems to be no way. Let's sing it out. God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. He will be my guide. Hold me closely to his side. With love and strength for each new day, he will make a way. He will make a way. One more time. God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. He will be my guide. Hold me closely to his side. With love and strength for each new day, he will make a way. He will make a way. Amen. I'm glad you guys are all here tonight. Don't forget skating. If you have your skates, I think we have some loaner pairs out there. Just be safe and no one get hurt. All right? You are dismissed. God bless you guys.